This is a commercial training week 4. So this is a question that happens in commercial a lot, okay? In commercial, what happens is that you hear of a friend of a friend of a friend, and the question always is, how do we as realtors compensate people who give us referrals, okay? It happens in residential, it happens in commercial, happens on both sides, no question about it. But let's be really clear, first of all, about the rules, okay, about the law. In REBA 2002, it states that paying any form of compensation to an unregistered person for activities that would be defined as in furtherance of trade is prohibited. A trade includes the disposition or acquisition of a transaction in real estate sale or lease. So, what does that mean? According to the bulletin that REBA 2002 sent out, if Johnny recommends to you Peter, and Peter wants to buy a place, but Johnny wants to get a little, referral for that, that is illegal. As a matter of fact, it is illegal to the point where technically even a bottle of wine is illegal to give to the person who's giving the referral, unless they are a registered real estate sales person. Now, we all know, I'm sitting behind the manager's desk here. We all know in the real world it happens, it definitely, we're not crazy. We know that referrals happen, that people pay money, that people give gifts to people giving referrals. But technically, when you do that, you're offside with REBA 2002 as a sales representative. The more interesting part about that is the person who wants the referral is holding themselves out as a registered real estate sales representative, which they are not. And they could get fined big time under the law. And there has been some major fines, and I mean in the $25,000 to $30,000 range, of people who have accepted referrals from real estate salespeople that are not real estate agents. You have to be really careful on both sides here when you're talking about referrals. And so in the commercial world, it happens just like the real estate world in residential. And you do have to be careful about giving out cash to people, giving out, I know people go out and buy liquor, LCBO gift cards or Canadian Tire gift cards and give it to people as well. Just we're not stupid. We don't have blinders on. We know what's going on in the industry. All I'm trying to say to you all is be careful. Questions. How much commission should be charged for a commercial transaction? For leases, a typical lease on a listing is 8% and 4% as an example, okay? What that means is that the landlord will pay 8% of the gross dollar amount for a year of rent for the first year, and 4% for any future year after that. It does not apply to a further 5-year terms. It only applies to the original term. I think we did talk about this a little bit. If you see a commercial lease that has half a month's rent on it, you are dealing with a residential realtor who doesn't know what they're doing to a large extent. I shouldn't put that wide of a blanket on everybody, but to a large extent, if you see half a month's rent out there, you're dealing with a residential agent pretty much, all right? So for leases, it's usually 8 and 4, which means the cooperating broker would get 4 and 2. That's pretty normal. Sometimes you'll see 6 and sometimes you'll see for the cooperating brokerage, you'll see 3 and 1.5, which means that on the listing, it's 6 and 3 for the listing. And so do pay attention to the cooperating brokerage. That's pretty normal. 8 and 4 for I'd say a 2,000, 3,000 square foot property is pretty standard. You're going to see that number drop a little bit if you're getting into that sort of 8,000 and 10,000 square feet and above. For businesses for sale. For businesses for sale, be careful, you guys. Don't give the ship away for businesses for sale. I'm not including property here. We're just talking about a business. So it's a business in a leased premises, okay? be careful. Don't undersell yourself in terms of commission for these things. Some of these things are really, really, really difficult to sell depending on you're going to be tired of me saying this, I know, but depending on the income statement. Some of them are really, really notoriously difficult today. If you're taking on a restaurant for sale today, my goodness gracious, you're not going to be doing this for anything less than 6%. Selling a restaurant today is going to be a really, really, really difficult chore because of COVID, for example. Okay. So you really have to look at what's going on in the economic side of things. What is the demand for the business that is for sale? Can that business be grown? Do they have a good net operating income? I mean, I think you can be less than 6% perhaps if it's a Tim Hortons, if you're allowed to sell a Tim Hortons, I'm not so sure. But, because it's got pretty much a guaranteed income stream, it's got a really low capitalization rate. It should be a relatively quick sale. Well, depending on the price they're asking, of course. But if it's a restaurant today, if I was listing a restaurant today, I would look out in the big wide world and go, not a chance. I want 10% commission. Don't sell yourself short when it comes to what you are listing a business for sale for. Okay. Some businesses for sale are for sale for, and we're talking about businesses in a leased premises. Some businesses are for sale for, $80,000. Well, for $80,000 at a 6% commission rate, you're making $4,800, which you have to split with your cooperating brokerage. It's now $2,400. And then we take Century 21 takes their slice of the pie, and you have to pay tax on it, and you're not left with much. And so do really think about, when you're talking about a business for sale in a leased premises, what you are listing it for, and is it worthwhile? Now, for some of you who are relatively new in the business, perhaps taking it on just so that you can get it at a lower commission rate, I should say, is probably, maybe I'll say it's a good idea, so that you get the business and you get your business going and you're a little bit competitive. But for those of you who are busy and you get an opportunity to sell an $80,000 business, but it's going to take you away from other, businesses, or even on the residential side, it takes you away from an $800,000 sale. Well, you got to think twice about what you're charging for a commission. Make it worth your while. Okay. Don't cheap out on this. All right. Sales of property are in the 4 to 6% range. Now, it could be a property like a building. It could be a building with a business, combined. It could just be a office building, that kind of thing. Once again, with COVID, there's going to be, the predictions are, there's going to be a lot of available space out there. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming onto the market. It's going to be, depending on how difficult it is to sell, depending on what your commission rate will be. And once again, what's it all about? Well, what's the net operating income? In an office building that's filled with, for example, medical doctors, there's a net operating income statement, you guys, no different than if you're buying a business, a retail business like a restaurant. Office buildings have net operating income statements. Apartment buildings have net operating income statements, that kind of thing. You really have to think about, is it worthwhile to take it on? If the money being asked is absolutely ridiculous, then, you're going to be at it for a long time. Charge a higher commission rate if you decide to take it on. So do really have a good hard look at the net operating income. Have a good hard look at the economic conditions that we're in, and let's face it, as of today, it's the economic conditions are frightening, depending on which sector you're in. You certainly don't want to be in the hotel and tourism business, any kind of hospitality business like restaurants. That kind of thing is getting a little scary out there. And so if somebody wants you to sell something in today's world, you better make sure you've got this right on, that you can ask for a higher commission and explain how long this is going to take to sell. Why doesn't a business for sale want to list publicly? And there's lots of that. Why doesn't a business for sale want to list publicly? The answer is perceived negative effect on businesses. You lose customers. they're not really serious, or they perhaps want a possible reduction in commission because they want you to have it exclusively where you will not share your commission with anybody else. All right. So certainly people will go, and restaurants are one of them. They really don't want, well, prior to COVID, I guess, they really don't want a for sale sign in their front window of a restaurant because they feel that it'll affect a negative effect on their business and lose customers. And I think there's some truth to that. Some people very much not serious. You know, they're asking a ridiculous price. So if you get the sale, wonderful. And I do talk about virtually every seller, every business owner will sell if the price is right, for sure, and possible reduction in commission. So then you have to list it exclusively. If you are listing exclusively, then if they are willing to share commissions, you can list it on Broker Bay, on the commercial section of Broker Bay in the exclusive listings. You could also pay for ICI World, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, to list it there as well. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So overcoming objections, this is applicable to both residential and commercial. This is basically out of Rob Vivian's playbook, but it's also, when you think about it, it's just being normal. So when somebody has an objection, you have to overcome it. And before you overcome the objection, you have to realize two things. One, the person that has an objection, okay? The person who has an objection, no matter how stupid you think the objection is, that person thinks it's real. All right. And it might be a silly thing, like you don't like green paint on the wall. Who knows? I don't like the financial statement, whatever it might be. You have to realize that in that person's mind, it is real. The second thing you have to know about objections is when somebody has an objection about purchasing or selling or whatever, that person has in Sales 101, that person has an objection wall that has gone up in their head, okay? And you have two choices. You can try to climb over the wall, which is really difficult to do, or you can try to take the wall down prior to overcoming the objection. Now, I know some of you who've been through my quick start have heard this before, so bear with me. But you want to try to get 2 yes answers in a row. 1, 2, okay? The first thing you do, this is how psychologically you take the objection wall down, okay? If somebody says to you, oh, I think I'm going to go with somebody else because they're offering 1% less commission, you repeat the objection back to that person. Their only answer can be is a yes, and you have to get 2 yes answers in a row. Okay, so if I understand you correctly, the other agent is offering 1% less commission. Is that correct? I told you that the other agent is doing 1% less commission. So you know that it's 1% less commission, but you repeat the objection back to the client or customer, whatever it is. There's only one answer. They can't say no. They've just told you what it is. They have to say yes. That's the first step in taking down what we call the objection wall. Then the second step is you validate what the objection is in a personal manner. You relate it to yourself, okay? You know, I understand that objection. If I was trying to sell my property, I would want to receive as much value as possible at the end of the day. And that is why you are considering working with the other realtor. Is that about right? And once again, there's only one answer for them, and that's a yes. This is the psychology of sales 101, you guys. What are you doing here? All you're doing is becoming relational, right? You're empathizing with them. You're understanding with the people, with your client or a customer. The example that I'm going to give next is, and please, I think everybody who knows me is I'm not a sexist guy at all, but I'm going to pick on girls for a minute here. And for the women in the room, you know, a typical example is your girlfriend comes to you and says to you, and she's in tears, and she says to you, my boyfriend just broke up with me. I can't believe it. And she's crying and bawling. And what do the women say back? Do you say, oh, let's go to the bar and pick up another guy? No. You say to them, "Oh my goodness, your boyfriend just dumped you? Is that right?" "Yes, it is," in tears. "I understand how you feel. It's happened to me. You must feel terrible, don't you?" Right? All you're doing, I'm not trying to pick on women here, by the way. All you're doing is becoming relational and understanding and empathizing. If you try to jump right over the objection wall, you're not going to get there, you guys. Okay? You have to make sure that the person you're talking to is becoming friendly, right? You have to be friends with them. The minute you try to overcome an objection and say, "Why don't you like green paint?" Well, you're almost taking a defensive attitude, and you're not being friendly and empathetic and understanding in relationships. All right. So it's just being normal. All right. So when someone says to you, you don't want to buy the property, you say to them, "Well, why not?" Of course. And they give you the reason. And then you say, "If I understand you correctly, the reason why you don't want to buy this place is because it has green paint. Is that correct?" "Yes." I understand exactly how you must feel about the green paint. And if I had to buy a house right away, or purchase a property right away, or buy a business right away, and I had to move in and take over the business, and it's the closing date, and the first thing I want to do is get rid of that green paint. But what I really need to do is I really need to run my business, or I really need to paint the house, or whatever. I think I understand you totally. And I guess that's why you're thinking that you're not going to purchase this property. Is that about right? And there's only one answer, and that's yes. All right. And all you're doing is being friendly. Then you try to overcome the objection. "Can I please share something with you?" Okay. They can only really say sure. They're not going to say no to that question. All you're doing is being friendly and opening up a dialogue, right? And "Can I please share something with you?" And now you try to overcome the objection. Mr. Buyer, I understand totally about that green paint, as I've said. However, perhaps we can do something like give you a free coupon with Deluxe Paints that gets you 35% off all paints at Deluxe Paints. Perhaps we can put a condition in the offer that the seller is willing to paint the place prior to closing if I supply the paint, so it doesn't cost them anything. Okay, that kind of thing. Try to overcome the objection. 1% less commission. "Can I please share something with you?" Or "Can I please ask a question?" And that question is, did that realtor, when they were talking with you, did they offer that 1% discount right when we were sitting here, just like we're talking here today? And normally the answer to that is yes, that agent just offered me that 1%. Well, what I like to say then is, I'm not going to give in to you, Mr. Seller, right away and match that agent's 1%. I'm going to try to prove to you that I'm a really good negotiator, and I'm not going to give in. Just like when we get an offer on your property, I'm not going to tell you that you should take this offer. It's a great offer. I'm going to try to negotiate and get a really, really good offer for you. I'm sitting here trying to tell you right now that I'm an excellent negotiator because I'm not giving in to that 1%. So how about we settle at 0.75% instead? All right. And negotiate, you guys. All right. With the people who want less commission. Don't give in right away. Prove to them that you're a really good negotiator. So these scripts that I'm talking about here, these scripts are all available for you in your Google Drive. They're all available for you on the Century 21 Heritage Group YouTube training channel. I told you at the beginning of this slide that it's the Rob Vivian, right out of the Rob Vivian playbook, but it's also out of Zig Ziglar 101's playbook. It's out of just about everybody's playbook, this one, who's in sales, because this is just relationship building, and that's what you want to do. And so you can watch the Rob Vivian videos on the Heritage Group YouTube training channel, and I highly recommend you do. He's got great suggestions in there for overcoming objections, but all you're doing here is being friendly. Don't try to overcome an objection without taking down the objection wall. Scripts. Practice, 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 practice. Knowing what to say in any situation is key. Okay. Practicing proven dialogues will help you phrase things naturally and without hesitation. Okay, so when you're looking for the scripts are templates, you guys. Okay, scripts are templates. You have to make them your own. And, you know, it takes practice. So way back when I first got into sales, gosh, it seems like 100 years ago now, I was in the travel business, and I sold travel. This is pre-internet travel. Almost, actually, when I started, it was actually pre-computer travel, if you can believe that. And we used to look it all up on paper, all the flights around the world in these big books. Oh my goodness. Anyways, my job was to sell my travel services to government and corporations. So I'd go into a lawyer's office, a big lawyer's office, for example, and I would go talk to the secretary at the front desk. We used to call them secretaries then, not administrators. Secretaries at the front desk, and find out how I can get that lawyer company to book their travel with my travel agency. And so this was a difficult chore to do. And I had trainers, and the trainer, what that sticks out in my mind and has stuck with me throughout my sales career, taught me something really important to learn scripts. And what you do is you get the script, or you practice what you need to do. But where you practice is you go into your bathroom and you lock the door in your bathroom and you look at yourself in the mirror, okay? And you convince yourself with that script, whatever the script might be. So you repeat it, and you know what? I'm going to guarantee you, everybody, what's going to happen is you're going to break out in tears, you're going to break out in sweat, your underarms are going to break out in sweat, you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, and you're going to go, oh my goodness, this is just absolutely hopeless, because you haven't practiced it. And so when you can convince yourself with the script, you're looking at yourself in the mirror, when you can convince yourself, you can convince anybody else. All right, so when you're practicing your scripts, practice it by yourself first. I think a real failure of salespeople is not practicing scripts enough. And the other failure is you try to practice, but you try to practice, for example, with your husband or your wife or your significant other. All right, and they're going to be really forgiving. All right, when you look at yourself in the mirror, there's no forgiving, because it's only yourself. All right. So certainly when you've got it down pat after you've practiced it in the mirror, okay, then go to your husband or your wife or significant other or your best friend or your mom or whoever and practice it with them as well. Okay. But first, you have to convince yourself and believe it in yourself. And I'm telling you, it works. So this is kind of a bit of a funny slide here, because who's going door knocking in COVID is a whole different situation. It is very, very, very difficult to do. But let's just talk about it anyways. Commercial prospecting. You know, who needs commercial real estate services? All right. Are you talking to the person who has the authority to act? So when you're in a store and you go to the front desk and you ask if I can speak to anybody who's in charge of real estate in this office or in the store or whatever, who are you actually talking to, right? Is it just a clerk behind the counter, or is it actually somebody who actually has the authority to act? And obviously you need to get to the person who has the authority to act. Back to when I used to go to a lawyer's office or a government office or a big corporation office, the first line of defense was the administration front desk. And you have to be able to, you know, get past that person. Well, how do I get in touch with that person? Can I leave a message? Can I call them? And now, of course, can you email them? You know, all of that kind of thing. I love to meet face-to-face with people. Of course, you want to meet face-to-face with people. This is still a real estate business. It's still a relationship business. It's still, real estate is still a contact sport, even with COVID. Now you just have to be real careful about what you're doing, right? And you want to build relationships up. I don't know if Bob's with us here today. Let me check to see who's with us today. Bob Marabi, are you with us today? Maybe not. Bob told me a great story he was in a convenience store, and he was talking to the person behind the counter who ended up to be the owner, about perhaps real estate services. Bob was great with this. And another woman came in and wanted to buy lottery tickets, and Bob's talking to the owner on the other side of the counter, and the woman wants to buy lottery tickets, and Bob's buying lottery tickets, and the three of them just start to talk. And Bob ends up, this woman had another business that I'm sorry, I can't remember what it was, but started just to talk and ended up, I believe, selling something for her, just chatting away. Don't be shy out there, you know. You want to be able to get out there. Of course, the $1 million question that I get now is, if you go door knocking, for example, in a plaza, let's just say you go to Elgin Mills and Yonge, to the plaza where, what is it, a Freshco there, or the President's Choice Place, I can't remember what it is. The TD Bank is in that plaza, and you go to each store, and the question I usually get is, well, if I walk into the pizza store, how do I tell them how much the business is worth? Because that's a question that the guy's going to ask you, right? Hi, I'm John from Century 21 Heritage Group. I'm just doing some canvassing in the neighborhood here, just trying to find out if anybody's interested in selling their business. I work in commercial real estate, and I'm wondering if you're in need of any commercial real estate services. And the answer usually is, oh, I'm always interested in selling. How much is this place worth? Well, you have no idea, do you? You have absolutely no clue. What's your answer? Well, I'd love to sit down with you to determine the value of your business, but maybe we should do that over a coffee or something like that. Maybe when the business isn't so busy, I'm just starting out here. Can we make an appointment to talk about your needs and maybe have a quick overview of your financial situation in here? Talk about how much the rent is, and then we can figure out how much your business is worth. What do you think? Should we get together this Thursday morning or Friday morning before your business opens? Simple as that. And then what? Well, then you get to talk to them about their net operating income, and away we go from there. Okay. So you don't need to be an expert in shoe stores, in that plaza. What else is there in that plaza? There's the resale store for, I believe it's mostly women's clothing. There's I think a pet store in there. There's the pizza store in there. There's another restaurant that I can't remember what it is in there. Of course, you're not going to go into the Service Ontario store. That would be crazy. Nothing to sell in there. You're not going to go to the TD Bank. But you have to know what all these businesses are worth? No, absolutely not. You need to be able to have a script that asks them to get together with you at another time so you can discuss more in detail of what their business might be worth, depending on literally how much money they take home every year, and go from there. So here's a great script for you guys. And once again, this will be recorded. So if you want to rewatch this at a later date, you can, or you take a picture of this if you want to, if you have your cell phone handy. Great script. Hello, it's John from Century 21 Heritage Group. I do most of my business in your area, and we haven't had a chance to meet yet. So I'm calling to see if you have any real estate needs I can help you with within the next 3 to 6 months. And then it's no or yes or whatever, and away you go. Okay, so that's a pretty easy script. This one you can do by phoning. All right. Am I talking to the owner of the company? All right. I don't know if any of you have run your own small businesses. I certainly have in my lifetime. I've run 4 of them, and I get calls like that. I get calls. The person says, am I speaking to the principal of the company? And you know what? It's a person who wants to sell me a better phone system. It's a person who wants to sell me shades for my door, for my windows, wants to sell me a new sign. You get those kind of phone calls all the time. These are normal. Okay. Another script, if you want to take a picture of that. All right. Another script you can use. This one is almost another one that kind of mirrors the residential door knocking script. If you're knocking on a door, I send out monthly newsletters to my preferred clients with valuable information regarding hot topics in real estate. etc., etc., etc. It's also a great way to reach out to people as well if you're phoning people. Remember, businesses are not on the do not call list. You're allowed to call businesses, no problem. Okay. All you have to do is Google the business, and you get their phone number. My goodness, when I first started out, there wasn't Google. We had to go door to door. Okay, and so you have an advantage there for sure over old guys like me. But you've got to practice this script. You have to be able to convince yourself before you can convince anybody else that you're real. Okay, that you're genuine. Another one. And many small business owners, as I said earlier, will sell if the price is right. So a third script for you as well, going door knocking, door to door in businesses. I mean, I think right now, my goodness, if anybody really wanted to get a big book of listings, go knock on everybody's restaurant's door right now. See how it's going, and maybe you'll get 5 or 6 listings of it now. That might be really difficult, but boy, do you have something to advertise? Do you have something to put on your website? I know I'm kind of bottom feeding here to some degree, but what a great way to get going. This one is the commercial sphere of influence. Your commercial sphere of influence is very similar to a residential sphere of influence. Who do you know that owns a business? Now, let's pick on men, since I picked on women earlier. Men, most of us, not me right now, because I'm doing my own hair, but a lot of people still are going back to their barbers or hairdressers or whatever you want to call them. Stylists, I guess, is what they're called today, hair stylists. And you sit there and you chat away to your barber. And are you finding out when you're talking to your barber who the owner of the barbershop is? So has anybody done that? How about women out there? You go to hairdressers, and maybe you want to go to a hairdresser again real soon before we all lock down again. God only knows. But who has gone to a hairdresser or a barber in, let's say, the last 3 or 4 months? I think most of us have gone and talked to their barber and asked, who is the owner of this business? Oh, that's Joe over in the other chair. Oh, maybe I'll just have a quick word with Joe because I'm in real estate. I'm in commercial real estate. And maybe him and I should talk about the value of his business. I think I'll go over there after my hair's cut. How many people are doing that out there? Let's see. How many people do we have on this today? We have 22 people. So who's doing this? Somebody said it. I saw Pauline's name come up there. So maybe you've done it, Pauline. Congratulations. I hope you have. Okay.
Well, John, can I share my experience here?
Please.
Yeah, I do. I always go to a hairdresser, and she is my friend, and she just live opposite to my house, so that's why I always go there. But then we both moved out of the area anyway. Many years ago, but I still go there. And then one day I heard from another friend that she sold her property in a retail in a plaza. Okay.
Right.
But at that time I haven't got my license yet. Okay.
Oh wow.
and I heard from my friend that she sold for over 1 million.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and then she moved to other location, and she earned 1 million. And now I heard from another friend that she's going to move to his living place, his house. Okay, he's going to sell his house and move out to other areas. So I'm thinking maybe if we know the owner of the business, maybe one day when they are going to sell his business, and then maybe one day he's going to sell his property as well. So if we have a good connection with those people, we can get a very good business.
Absolutely.
That's what I want to share. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Absolutely. Much the fact that you've reached out to the owner of the company They might not sell their business, but at least you've told them you're a real estate agent. Maybe they'll sell their house. You know, I mean, get your circle of your sphere of influence, grow your sphere of influence, you know?
Yes, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to contact her and to see if she needs my help right now. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, another example that I have is just up the street here at Devonshire and Young. There's the auto repair shop. There's the oil change shop, and then beside him is an auto repair shop. And it just the name just goes right out of my head right now. And but I had some work done on my Subaru there, and if I was selling real estate, I'd be asking them, you know, so how's it going? Do you need any commercial real estate needs? I'm in real estate. Here's my card. You know, I'm giving you business, buddy. You should be giving me business, right? That's how business works. Okay. Another example is Bob talking to the owner of a convenience store. You know, he goes to that convenience store every Friday and buys lottery tickets, right? Well, you see the same face week after week after week. You should become friends with these people. Why be strangers?
Yeah,
Right?
but still I have a question about here, because even I know that she's going to sell his barber shop, okay? But because both of us we know each other so well, and she knows my story, so and then she knows I'm really new, okay, as a real estate agent or as a commercial real estate agent. So I'm thinking, even I tell her, oh, I'm working as a real estate agent. I'm afraid she won't hire me. This is my true feeling about it. So how can I overcome that in this case?
Okay, so two things, and it's a great question, Pauline. So two things. One is affirmations. Okay, you have to stop saying that you can't do it. Okay, you have to tell yourself you can do it. 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 And
Okay.
convince your mind that you can do it. It's called affirmations. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Look up affirmations on Google. It will explain it really, really well. It's a very, very powerful tool to build positiveness in your own head. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the second thing is, and it's back to the basics here, is you know, let's sit down and let's talk about the value of your business. All right. And then you know the steps now from the previous few sessions.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need to have? You need to have a net operating income. You have to come up with some kind of capitalization rate that makes sense. Now, if it's a well-established barbershop, it's been in business a long time, they've got a great repeat clientele that comes in. The people who are cutting their hair have been there a long, long time. Maybe actually the people who are cutting their hair rent their chairs in this case, right? So they're not going to give up renting their chairs from the owner. That happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have a well-established business. What do you think a potential buyer would look at as a good return? 5%, 6%, 7%, 8%, somewhere in there, right? And
Yeah.
so then because of the simple math over net operating income, you can come up with a ballpark figure. So, you know, 6% capitalization rate, you can come up with a ballpark figure of the business.
Also, here I just get some idea, right? General idea from her, from what she described, right? I don't need to get any physical documents, right?
Not at this time, not at this point. But once
Okay.
again, are you talking about gross revenue? Are you talking about taxable income? Are you
Yeah,
talking?
how can I get the NOI and the capitalization? So do I need to do any homework before I meet her, or just ask her a question about it?
Right. So great question. So little shops like barber shops or a flower store or a shoe store, there is no capitalization rate that you're going to be able to find. Okay.
Mm.
They just don't exist. It's too small. Okay.
Oh,
All right. So now you have to look at it more of what is the return on investment, right?
mm-hmm.
So if you spend $1 million, Paula, on buying a barber shop, are you happy to get a 6% return? Right? Are
Okay.
you happy to get a 7% return? I would think it's in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, at the beginning, it's just a general conversation, but at the end, it's okay, let's see the paperwork. Okay.
I see. Thank you.
And Pauline, if you have questions about that, if you ever get to the point where you're unsure about the value, for God's sake, give me a call.
Okay. Thank you, John.
More than happy to help. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, John. I will.
No problem. Thank you. So have you reached out to everyone who you know that owns a business, right? Like, you know, we're all in little businesses all the time. Are you doing the same thing as residential? Have you given them a pop-by, a free gift, right? Do you talk to them relatively often? And the experts say you should talk to them 4 times a year. But, you know, I do oil changes 4 times a year. You know, I mean, what the heck? It's pretty easy, right? Have you even told them about your services, right? Like, do they even know that you are in real estate? And you might not get a commercial sale, but you might get a residential something or other from them. Are you expanding your commercial sphere of influence? It's no different than residential, all right? The key to residential, certainly at the very beginning of your career, and if you really want to keep going throughout your career, though some people just end up working on referrals, to get your commercial business going, you need to build a commercial sphere of influence, no different than residential. Any other questions? Okay, that's it. And so I told you at somewhere in there that there's something called ICI World. This leads into the 5th session, which is now on the Century 21 Heritage Group YouTube training channel. But I want to talk about ICI World. ICI World is an online service that is for private individuals or real estate agents, okay? I estimate right now that the Toronto Real Estate Board in the GTA has around, I'm just going to say around 75 to 80% of all available, in other words, public commercial listings, okay? ICI World probably holds the other 15%, and then there's 5% that might be with CoStar or Altus. ICI World is a subscription-based service that you can go on to right now and look at listings, all right? And it's a little disorganized. It's not totally a user-friendly website, but it works. It's there once you get used to it, okay? Now, how do you get listings? Well, for those of you who are relatively new and competing with another agent perhaps to get a commercial listing, you can say to them that I will post your listing on ICI World. You can show them what ICI World is, you know, bring your laptop along and show them. And but to post a listing, you have to be a member of ICI World. And the last time I checked, and don't take this as gospel, please, but I think it's $320 for a year. And so you have to be a member of ICI World to be able to post a listing. As a buyer or a buyer agent, anybody can look at it, but to post, you need to pay. But $300, so and that's approximately $300. So now you're looking at a business that's worth $250,000. You're in competition with somebody else. You know, you've got it at 4 or 5% commission or 6%, who knows? Is it worthwhile to spend $300 to get the listing because you're going to put it on ICI World and the other person isn't? Well, duh, of course it is, okay? My goodness gracious. So you all want to check out ICI World. And you know, I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of a brain meltdown here. I can't remember if it's iciworld.ca or iciworld.com. I think it's CA. But try both if one doesn't work. I can't remember for sure. CoStar and Altus Group are much, much, much more expensive. CoStar for an individual membership runs you somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 or $600 a month. Okay, it's a much more expensive thing. It's a lead generation program for commercial in CoStar and Altus as well, by the way. They're both basically lead generation because it tells you when leases are for sale for, I'm sorry, when leases expire in office buildings, and it tells you who manages it, and you can call that person and ask them if they're interested in listing, the landlord is interested in relisting or what they're doing. But they're really expensive. They're $500 or $600 a month each if you want to join one of those. So look both of those up online as well. That's the homework for this week. Okay. And everybody stay safe. Please follow the guidelines for COVID, and let's try to get these numbers down again, folks, so that we don't go into lockdown. All the best. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. It's been a real pleasure talking to you all. Take care.